finding out you're moving on without a doubt. Say what you need to restrain me, pick me up to put me down. It isn't fair when you shout, patience there, but it's running out. Today's the day that you'll all see, bet you wish you kept me now. Where has everyone gone? Was I really not good enough for you? Can't you see what I've done? Was I really not good enough for you? Not again, second time, kill a friend, feel alive. Do you feel the fulfillment from within, or the momentum when you take a dive? Purple roads and city lights, get in the car or get left behind. Tell me again, I'm a has-been, it might kick me into overdrive. Where has everyone gone? Was I really not good enough for you? Can't you see what I've done? Was I really not good enough for you? And you'll never be safe from the pace of the change. You can feel it in your skin as the eggs start setting in. And one day you'll be gone. Is there anyone good enough for you? Show the way, take it in, stay the same specimen. Loss of faith, breathing in, ricochet, adrenaline. Show the way, take it in, stay the same specimen. Loss of faith, breathing in, ricochet, adrenaline. Where has everyone gone? Was I really not good enough for you? Can't you see what I've done? Was I really not good enough for you? And you'll never be safe from the pace of the change. You can feel it in your skin as the eggs start setting in. And one day you'll be gone. Is there anyone good enough for you? 5 years you've been with him. Could you tell me whose time are you wasting? The fruit's gone blue, the well's gone dry. She's breaking 22, asking who am I? Commiserating. In 2 blinks she's on to the next fling. That's all it took to say goodbye. He scrambles for the hood, but she's off the line. She's been waiting for the chance. Maybe she's never lived. She told him she wouldn't leave, then she did. He's not smiling with his eyes again. She said he doesn't want it, he just needs a friend. He's only getting nervous now the rope is being set. Did nobody ever tell you grapes are better in September? She's laughing when he's not around. He begs for her attention when he's feeling down. She only reaches for him when he's underneath the web. Did nobody ever tell you grapes are better in September? He always cared, but he's had enough. 'Cause all this constant fighting doesn't feel like us. He knows it's time to move on. She's been waiting for this moment for so long. She never shared why she felt so rough. She broke another heart so she could fall in love. She doesn't give a shit if it sounds wrong. She's fucking city boys to her favorite song. space, tripping out of the back door. He said, I fell for someone new, but she's just another girl that looks like you. What's love if it's not true? It's just another girl that looks like you. He's not smiling with his eyes again. She said he doesn't want it, he just needs a friend. He's only getting nervous now the rope is being set. Did nobody ever tell you grapes are better in September? She's laughing when he's not around. He begs for her attention when he's feeling down. He only reaches for him when he's underneath the web. Did nobody ever tell you grapes are better in September? I fell for someone new, but she's just another girl that looks like you. What's love if it's not true? It's just another girl that looks like you.
Okay, I think I've bought more than enough time. Surely. I've spent ages and ages and ages buying myself time so that I'm ready to go once I need to. Oh boy. All right. I believe we have a new thing to look at. Dear Lord. You didn't see that? There we go. Fixed it. Excellent. Alrighty. Of course. There's good meaning stuff. Sake. Everyone wants to talk to me today. Everyone wants to busy me up today. Uh-huh. Show me some time. There we go. Okay, excellent. Reading stream. Let's go. Fucking hell. I know it's the basic ambience. I don't have anything else. I didn't really have a lot of time to plan out music for this one, unfortunately, everyone. Otherwise, I would have. You all know I love my music choice being tailored rather than what it is at the moment. Jesus Christ. Okay. Are we ready? Is everyone ready to go? Yeah, everyone's always ready to go. Fuck. Alright. Chapter 5. Wait a fucking moment, I say, my brow furrowing in confusion. Must have missed a beat, Lucas. That sounded like a rat. A few more sparks flew from my skin. My body was growing feverish again. I took a few tentative steps towards Lucas, keeping Bella and that damn gun in sight. You gonna explain it so I understand things a bit better? Yeah, Callus. Wanna help him out a little? Ignore this. I'm just having a drink. Bella chimed in, her tone sharp and mocking. The gun was still gripped in her right hand, but it hung down by her side currently. It glinted even in the gloom of the afternoon's dying light, just enough to remind me of its presence. Bella rotated her neck, a series of clicking noises resounding from her spine. It's not like it matters anymore if he knows or not. Lucas pondered on that for a moment, before snapping his fingers, just once, in my direction. Fair enough then, James. You know how we're all buddy-buddy and hang out all the time, right? I frowned before replying. Yeah, of course. Two of my best friends. What? Somewhere inside, I already knew what he was about to say, yet I didn't want to admit it until it was too late to put it aside. He noticed, however, and simply chuckled to himself as if it was some nice little inside joke. You already know what I'm gonna say, don't you, pal? He strode towards me, stopping just before me. We aren't your friends. A sigh from my left, frustrated, angry. To the point, Callus. We have orders, Bella warned. She was impatient, eager to get on with other things than Lucas. Callus? He was delaying the inevitable. Yeah, yeah. Lucas shook his head, finding mild amusement in her deliberation. We aren't Lucas or Bella. He pointed at not Bella. That one over there calls herself Cammy. Short for camouflage, whatever. Fuck if I care. He then gestured towards himself, a dirty smirk, making the movement more than a mere wave. And I, as you've heard my colleagues say plenty of times now, am Callus. My frown only deepened. And what? Your names are different, but you're still. Callus cut me off immediately. No, no, you don't get it, James. We aren't your friends. We aren't Bella and Lucas. We aren't here out of pure coincidence. We aren't any of that childish bullshit. Callus was getting irritated, his face now a marred and crude memory of the pretty boy expression he wore whenever he was at school. It was gone as fast as it had appeared, but I still saw it. He took a deep breath before continuing. You're our target, and we were assigned almost a year ago to stick by your side until the go-ahead was given to remove. Remove me? I asked, caution beginning to finally set in. He'd said it with such flippancy, as if he was merely moving me to another location. I knew what he really meant. His goal was to eliminate me. Remove me as one would remove a wrong answer from an exam. Remove me as one would remove a mole from their body. They're going to kill me, I finally realized. Callus saw the moment realization dawned on me and threw his head back in laughter. It was a cold, hearty laugh, nothing like the joyous little chuckles that I'd seen from him over the last year. When he stopped and leveled his gaze with mine again, the humor had left his face. He looked apathetic. It was then that I finally saw that Lucas and Callus weren't the same. But he's still drawing this out. Maybe his mind changed. A phone rang out shrilly into the tense atmosphere surrounding the three of us, and Bella, no, Cammy, answered her phone. Her expression was already cloudy, but it became stormy as I heard the tinny sound of a voice from the other side of that phone call. I started backing up, but Cammy simply gestured with her gun hand and I froze in place. She nodded her head, her mouth working its way into a scowl. And what of Val? Val? Her party was cancelled, right? No use being at the damn house if she's not home, she said, her expression still managing to darken itself. More tinny noise spoke out from the phone. Yes. Yes. Fucking course, we're not new to this, prick. It was clear whoever was on the phone was someone Cammy utterly despised, but seemed to be forced into tolerating. We're finishing things up now and then we'll be off. With that, she hung up before hurling her phone across the floor. I winced, hating to see such expensive tech thrown about like nothing. Cammy let out a shouted obscenity before firing a shot at her phone. Sparks flew from the point of contact, and I didn't need to look too hard to know that the phone was irreparably damaged. Callus, who'd been relatively quiet for the call, raised a singular blonde eyebrow. Cammy raised a white one in response, her moody expression still lingering, before telling him, we have to finish up, now. He's already taking care of Valerie in the house. Valerie? The house? You gotta get home now. Picking my thoughts, specifically mine, screaming at me, telling me to go. Instead of cold fury, a miniature blizzard swelled within my stomach. I walked forward, clutching at the front of Callus's shirt with my left hand while my right sparked like crazy. The height difference of 7 inches didn't matter to me right now. I was pissed beyond belief. What the fuck have you done, you two-faced bastard? I spat at Callus, my anger biting into my words and morphing my features. A heavy blow soared straight into my stomach and the cold fury melted away. My body forcefully exhaled all the oxygen in my lungs in response, and I immediately let go of Callus as I doubled over in shock and pain. Seeing an opportunity, he swung one of his powerful legs toward my face, and I reflexively raised my arms to defend my head. Lightning wreathed my arms, soaking some of the impact, but the force of the kick still flipped me onto my back. I scrambled to my feet, rubbing at the impact zone as lightning coated the rest of me. That hit harder than Baxter's punch earlier. I had little time to consider how badly this could have ended up had I not had this new power. However, as Callus threw another kick at my head, I raised my arms again, stopping the kick from reaching my head, but this kick was far more powerful than the last one. I felt it as my bones trembled from the impact. I felt it in the sheer force that was packed into the leg. I felt it in the lightning. I slammed into the wall to my right, my left arm buzzing with pain, but before I could gather any semblance of a plan, Cammy took aim with a pistol and shot me, barrel aimed right for my heart. I flinched away, gasping in pain as something hit me in the chest hard. I saw a shower of sparks hit the floor, like vibrant orange rain falling from some unseen cloud. I tapped at my chest, felt no blood or any telltale signs of a gunshot wound. I gave myself a moment to consider that. Am I bulletproof? I thought, with more than a mild amount of holy shit! Something heavy thudded into my shoulder, and amidst yet another shower of sparks, I heard Cammy curse. We got no time, Callus! Outburst now! I rubbed at my shoulder, wincing as my left arm zinged with more pain when I heard what sounded like a steam train. Callus had lifted up the pant legs of his school trousers, and the vents on his legs were releasing immense amounts of steam. Probably necessary, considering that his legs were beginning to glow almost the same shade of orange as melting metal. I rushed towards Callus, aiming to stop him before whatever sneaky shit he was trying to pull was done. But Cammy shot me again, another heavy blow ramming into my side. I gasped, clutching my ribs in pain. Bulletproof, but still can get hurt by bullets. Fucking love. Callus then dashed towards me, spinning once before bringing a nasty roundhouse towards me. I barely got my guard up in time, catching the blow but being flung into the railing by the stairwell. Pain danced through my arms. You can't keep blocking and guarding forever. And my right eye was beginning to sting again. His kick was faster and stronger that time, I thought to myself. He was already preparing another kick, winding up an axe kick. And going with my instincts, I pushed some of the lightning within my body out of my hand and directed the blast at Callus. The bolts caught him and shocked him off his feet, and he fell to the floor. It bought me enough time to get back to my feet, shaking some of the growing weariness out of my limbs. You're fine. It's just your arms, your legs, your ribs, your spine. Else. Callus rose up after a couple seconds, grimacing slightly. The lightning bolts had singed his attire, but it had seemingly done very little damage. That makes sense. I scowled at him, hoping he could simply drop to the floor out of mere exhaustion. He grinned, more enthusiastically than I personally cared for in this situation. Yes, there you go, he encouraged. Attack us, James. Make this a little worth all your whingy bullshit we've dealt with over the last couple months. I clenched my right fist, tight. Tighter than tight. Shut up, I muttered. As pissed off as I was, it was still hard to let go of the fact that the two in front of me weren't Lucas or Bella. They weren't my friends. It still didn't seem real. My anger swelled again and I directed it, this time at Callus. Was all this, all our memories and our friendship, nothing more than business to you? I asked, irritation oozing from my question. A cruelness was adopted into his smile. Lucas was your friend. He straightened up, took a step towards me. He helped you when you got your ass beat. Another step. He went to the movies with you and Bella that one time, and you all had fun. Step. He checked on you when you were sick. Step. He offered to take the fall that one time you two got caught sneaking out of class. With one final step, Callus was right in front of me. He swept his arms out, almost as if he was to embrace me. I was Lucas once. Maybe. But now that business is my priority again, I'm hardened, ready for whatever's thrown at me. He leaned towards me, a deliberate failure of a stifled laugh escaping his lips. There was never a real Lucas. I'm not your friend, you dumb fuck. I'm Callus. Another cold laugh boomed from him, and he was about to throw his head back again when I instead threw a furious lightning-coated punch into his annoying pretty boy fuck-face features. I punched harder than I'd hit any of Baxter's enforcers earlier, punching with all the anger and frustration within me, and sent Callus flying into the opposite wall with a sickening thud. A few stray strands of my blue lightning trailing from his body and fading upon meeting the wall. His body crumpled to the floor immediately, similar to a puppet with its strings cut, and he was still. His legs sputtered and stopped glowing, though there was an angry shade of red. And his legs continued emitting steam, albeit at a much slower rate. A scowling grin snuck onto my face for just a moment. The same moment I decided to shout, "Weren't ready for that, you dumb fuck!" at his limp body. The emotions faded right after, and I was left with nothing but a dull ache and the light buzz of what remained from my anger. Cammy was still there, in shock. Ironic. Without a word, I walked towards her. My lightning still crackled angrily around me, but it was matching a level of emotional energy that my current emotions didn't mix with. I still felt immense energy coursing through my veins, but I was horribly calm. I just knocked out my best friend. I don't even know if I actually knocked him out, or if he's dead. Cammy backed up against the wall beside Callus's still form and raised her gun arm towards my face. But before she could get a good shot off, I darted towards her and pushed her back up against the wall. My left hand wrapped around her throat. I felt her swallow, either out of anticipation or anxiety, but I couldn't care less. I simply asked, in a far calmer tone that was warranted, granted how I felt, "What's going to happen to my mother?" Cammy's eyes widened and she fell to her knees with a soft wail of despair. "James, I'm so sorry," she cried. She started sobbing, and at once I knelt down beside her, my lightning fading, wrapped her free arm around my head and held me as she cried. And for a moment I was confused, but quickly became concerned. "Is this Ella talking?" She leaned close to my ear, close enough to whisper before asking, "Do you want to run away with me, James?" Her voice was filled with hope and a splash of mischief. "Ella?" I questioned. "Mm-hmm. It's me, James. Not that horrible me." She sounded a bit off, but given the fact that she was crying, it made sense. "Come on, let's ditch Callus and run away together." I went silent. "James, we can run away together. You know you want to, right? We'll have so much fun." Silence. She leaned closer to my ear. "I know you have a crush on me. Don't deny it. I've seen the way all the boys and girls look at me. You can have me. All of me. If we go away right now. All you need to do is say yes. One small word. Please, James. I'll give you the world and more. I'll do anything, everything you want. Just please say yes. One simple word. You can do it. Yes. Say yes." A soft rustling behind me as she spoke, her other arm moving slightly, trying not to draw attention to a slow process. The mention of Callus, not Bella's friend Lucas. Without further delay, I wreathed my right arm in lightning and pushed Cammy backward, before punching her with all the silent anger within me. Her body emulated Callus's, slamming into the wall before falling to the floor motionless. Her hair went from white to a faded ginger, her natural hair tone. I swore softly, digging my nails into my palms. A sadness settled within me. A king led to destroy his own kingdom, a dragon baited into slaying its rider, a soldier forced to take out his comrades in order to survive. I was left alone now. The still bodies of people who'd been pretending to be my friend, long enough to kill me now, my only nearby company. It was a cruel outcome, but more than anything, it hurt. I trusted them, I'd relied on them. I took their loyalty for granted. I took a deep, slightly ragged breath as I looked up to the ceiling of the half-built building. My back ached from Ethan's talons. My arms resonated with pain from Callus's kicks. My sides hurt from being slammed into the wall and from Cammy's gunshots. And the inside of my chest hurt like hell. The only good thing that had come from all this was that I no longer felt exhausted or sick. Man, it's been one shitty fucking day, huh? I thought to myself. I nodded to myself. Yeah, really has been. Time, 5:21 p.m. I couldn't help but feel like I was forgetting something vital. As I gingerly got to my feet again, my phone rang. Caller ID was my mother, and I answered the call. Immediately, a crackling, staticky noise blasted from the phone, and I winced, the noise reverberating within my ears. Then my mother's familiar voice, filled with desperate urgency. "James, listen to me, stay away from the house." It was abruptly drowned out by a loud crashing sound. I carried on without knowing she'd gone unheard. Found us. I'm so sorry, but please just don't come back. I've already..." Another crash, a brief intensifying of the crackling sound. "Coming to get you, so stay put, please." I was so taken aback, so overloaded with mixed thoughts and emotions that I only managed to say, "Mum?" before the phone call ended. Fuck, fuck, fuck. I completely forgot about Mom. Panic seized me. I was at least 30 minutes away from my house on foot. I couldn't think of any way to get home. Public transport would be unlikely to let me on due to my appearance and my injuries, and I wasn't legally old enough to drive. But there's a way, and you know it. I focused, trying to bring my lightning out, but a few measly sparks flew out from my skin and nothing more happened. I sighed. Yep, gotta run. Okay, is this one? Time 5:54 p.m. Location 230 feet from home. I could smell it a minute before I saw it. Smoke trailed up into the air. Dark is a bad omen, a stark contrast to the orange splashed against the clouds in the sky. My gut tightened in dread, and I piled on the speed. My earlier idea to use my lightning to boost my speed hadn't worked, primarily because I still didn't quite understand what I was doing, nor how I was doing it. I was reacting, and my new power is simply helping those reactions carry more impact. In time, I probably could learn how to utilize electricity to do all sorts of things, but I'd only just started using it. I still couldn't even bring it out on command, let alone use it properly. At least it does more than Dave's little light show, I thought. As a result, here I was now, 20 minutes later than I could have been. I rounded the corner and my fears were confirmed. My home was ablaze, the plumes of smoke wafting from the house climbing higher by the second. There weren't many people around yet, nor were there any emergency services. I couldn't see my mother outside of the house. Panic was piling up more and more with every passing moment. I started walking towards the inferno, but the heat beat me back with its sheer intensity. The flames crackled angrily, hungrily, as if consuming the house I'd lived in wasn't enough to sate its appetite. But I still can't see my mother. I ran around the back of the house, shouting out, "Mother! Mom!" My chances of her hearing me over the fire were low, practically zero. I was about to leap in when someone seized my arm. It was a silver haired man, probably mid 50s, with a gaze that betrayed the shock and fear his expression attempted to bury. "Careful, son. Don't want to go jumping into no blaze like that," he spoke grimly. He led me backwards, hand still gripping my arm. "Last time someone jumped into one of them house fires, it was nasty. Stay right here where it's safe." Patronizing son of a. I wrenched my arm free from his grasp and dashed directly into the house, smashing through the backyard glass door, lightning springing up around me right before my skin met the flames. The fire was almost unbearably hot, drawing sweat from me within seconds, but I'd survived walking through the flame without any burns. Bulletproof, fireproof, what can't this lightning do? I scanned the surroundings, trying to figure out exactly where in my house I was. The orange glow from the fire, combined with the falling portions of the roof and scaffolding, was making it difficult trying to navigate. "She's in here." I rounded a corner into the living room, or what had been the living room. The smoke was finally getting through my lightning, and my eyes began to finally water. I suppressed a cough, feeling it sink back into my lungs like a bat pulled back into hell. It felt like a scratchy tickling in my chest, crawling its way back up out of me with every stifled cough. There was a scent in the air, a burning. Not the burnings of varnishes, woods, but the burning of something organic. And then I saw it. When I was younger, I used to go on morning walks as part of my daily exercises that I had been testing out. One Monday, I'd walked past a German Shepherd, stocky in build around the shoulders and broad of chest. I imagined that it had enjoyed chasing down many rubber balls and running laps around a plush green yard, but it was hard to tell. I couldn't look it in the eyes and ascertain whether or not it had enjoyed much of anything, as half of its face was squashed into the asphalt its prone form lay on. I couldn't take my eyes off it. I wasn't used to seeing something so gruesome just lying there in plain sight. On Tuesday, flies had begun gathering around the corpse in masses, covering the majority of the dog. I could still see its legs, and imagine them twitching as the dog died. There was a swarm of movement, of reflective slick bodies, of wings that beat like mad as the insects scampered all along their target. On Wednesday it rained, so I didn't go for my morning walk. On Thursday, a stench populated the area around where it was. Flesh was rotting and falling off the bones of the dog, looking as black as the soaked asphalt it lay on. The smell was unlike anything I'd experienced prior, and it overwhelmed me. In that moment, both because of the smell and the sight of the dog's ribs clearly visible amongst the ruin of its body, I vomited all over the pathway. Here it was, again. The memories flooded my mind, triggered by the scent. My mother was lying still, horribly still, with the lower half of her body pinned beneath burning beams. Without another thought, I ran to her, leaping over the burning sofa along the way. I tried pulling her free from the damage, but her limp form remained stuck. I cursed, spluttering into a coughing fit as I took too deep a breath. I gotta get us out of here and fast. I threw myself shoulder first into the beams on top of my mother and watched as it snapped almost in half. I took a step back before punching the remaining wood from the beam apart and threw the part laid on my mother to the side. The smell of burning, rotting flesh intensified, swelling within my nostrils, but I suppressed the urge to gag. Now wasn't the time. I lifted my mother in my arms, disabling the electricity circulating around me so I didn't shock her, before walking back out of the house. I kept drawing in short breaths, keeping my eyes squinted. But the process of it all was dragging the moments out. I felt like it was taking too long, like this single moment was being stretched out into a personal eternity. I couldn't count the seconds as they went by, as all my attention was already divided between making my way out, making sure I wasn't breathing too hard. My lungs screamed for air, my legs ached with strain, my shoulder buzzed with pain from slamming against the wooden beam, and my injuries from earlier had seemingly reopened. Maybe it was sweat, but something was trickling down my back. Finally, we burst out into the open air and stumbled forward until I collapsed on the comparatively cool green grass. I gulped lungfuls of air that wasn't filled entirely with smoke, coughing violently but still breathing far better than before. I blinked tears out of my eyes, forcing them open despite the stinging feeling that the smoke had left behind. Beside me, my mother lay, stirring weakly on the grass. Her breaths were labored, as if each lungful of oxygen was an effort to draw in and exhale out. Her hand clutched at her stomach, stained scarlet from some injury I hadn't been able to see earlier. Her left leg was mangled, burned, and damaged way beyond repair. She'll never walk again on that leg. I crawled over closer, still stifling little coughs that racked my body with stinging pains. Mom, I called, my voice hoarse and rough as I shook her by the shoulder. Mom, come on, we gotta get out of here. Someone's cut. I was cut off by an immense blow to my side, sending me flying across the lawn and further away from the house. I clutched at my side, pain flaring and spiraling from the impact site. Peering back, I saw a tall, burning figure looming over my mother's feeble form. Something was clutched in the figure's hand, something long and sharp, cruel and edged, tipped with the promise of violence. A knife that was silver in color but shaped almost like a flame frozen in motion was poised, ready to strike. I had time to begin to panic, to begin to start getting concerned. Then the blade descended upon my mother's exposed back. I had no time to cry out, to start moving towards her. Instead, I watched, gripped with dread, as that knife plunged right through. There was no chance at all she was going to be okay. That blade looked too real. Everything was too real. Things were blurring, and my right eye was stinging again. A wave of unbearable heat slammed down on my back, knocking me dangerously close into unconsciousness. I peered back towards the figure, my vision already starting to grow fuzzy. The world kept flickering, bright orange lights that shouldn't exist washing over the figure, turquoise faintly flickering and fading from my mother's body, still burning a bright white against my own body. I tried to sit up, but another wave of heat slammed into me. I remember feeling weightless before a rushing feeling filled my limbs. My body crashed into something hard and everything went black. Meanwhile, it stirred again. Something was bugging at it, trying to get its attention. But for what purpose? It saw nothing worth moving for yet. Something was on the horizon, something immense. But it wasn't its time to begin acting. Soon, it promised. Oh, so very soon. Hi, Jocelyn. Nice to see you. If you're on a different account, you can't get into the old one. That's fine. I'm just glad to have you here, regardless. All right. Bring back the other one. Consider this your refresher course as well as your little sneak peek into what's happening next, since you haven't read chapters 7 onwards. Two figures stood opposite one another. One was overbearing, overwhelming, overshadowing, an all-encompassing presence. The other was barely present by comparison, like a weak candle compared to the roaring flames that consumed a forest. A sight indeed it was, these two entities acting as equals despite the vast disparity. And a familiar one, too. Oddly familiar. A being too painful to look at for long periods of time, one that seemed unreal in the sense that it shouldn't exist, and a ragged-looking boy whose stance suggested several injuries and exhaustion. Both swelled with immense power, and rushed towards each other, meeting in a clash that brought forth a shower of sparks carried by what seemed like a shockwave. The air around them distorted, tore itself apart, and put itself back together faster than one could comprehend, and yet one knew what happened instinctively. An eruption of purple flames broke out, engulfing the boy instantly. It should have been over then, and just as quickly as they had appeared, they were dispersed. Iridescent, flowing energy coiled lazily around the boy's body, repelling and erasing the flames within moments. And yet, just as soon as the first blast had been taken care of, an even bigger one followed suit. The boy was sent hurtling backwards, crashing amongst the rubble of an old building, but leapt towards the strange being almost immediately after the collision. A hit was landed, an attack so forceful one could even feel the impact even within a dream. A dream? I woke up with a start, having realized too late that I was observing yet another one of those dreams. This one went on for longer, didn't it? Yeah, it really did. A wave of onset pain settled slowly into my body, and with a groan I clutched at my stomach. I took this moment to truly take in my surroundings. An oddly grey room with several blue beds and white pillows. Most of the beds were empty, though on one a hunched figure was sat with their hands intertwined. Their posture seemed to be one of deep thought, of generally feeling low. Looks like one of those hospital movies. I sat up, grimacing as I did so, and as I slung my feet off the bed to the right, I saw myself, reflected in a mirror hung by a nearby wall. Most of my face was cast in shadow, so my immediate attention was instead drawn to my hair as it hung low over my eyes. I frowned, noticing a streak of my hair was half white. Part of me wanted to check my hair with my hand, but most of me wasn't surprised. That's what I didn't notice earlier, I thought. I stood up, ready to walk out, but a single step was all I took before my knees gave out. I landed awkwardly on my elbow and a sharp pain shot up my left arm. I hissed, and the other person in the room twitched in response. I heard a murmur, but nothing I could identify. Then they straightened up, stood up as well, strode towards me, helped me up to my feet. Before I even had the chance to offer any gratitude, a fist sank into my gut and I collapsed again, this time out of breath and clutching my stomach. A familiar voice, one I couldn't immediately identify, rang out from above. Fucker. I rolled over so I could get a better look at the other person, but received a knee to the cheek and spun back to the floor again. Something in my mind sparked, my skin grew momentarily hot, and then lightning sputtered from my fingertips. The brief flash of bright light made the attacker hesitate, and in that moment I scrambled back to my feet. My legs weren't strong enough to properly hold me yet, it seemed, but I needed to get off the floor before I was in any further danger. I took a moment to try and gather myself enough to attack, but a blast of flame to my torso sent me sprawling against the ground again. Quite well acquainted with this fucking floor, aren't we? The attacker still had flames crackling within their left palm, and the light in it finally showed me the face of the other person. The light it cast, whoops. My anger flared again. Axel, you son of a bitch! I roared, my body throwing off more sparks as I got back up and dashed towards him. Axel simply closed his hand around the fire he held and threw a lazy punch into my face that sent me spinning away from him. I righted myself, but before I could try attacking again, he slammed me against a nearby wall, his forearm pressing hard into my throat, and another hand filled with curling flames and poised to strike. What the fuck happened at that house, brat? He spat, his temper also seemingly being barely kept in control. What does that fucking matter, asshole? It has nothing to do with you, I yelled. In response, he pressed his arm harder into my neck and I sputtered. Bit hard to be a snarky little shit when you can't breathe, right? You're a bit behind on events, but right now, I need to know who the hell killed Valiant. Now! I furrowed my brow in both confusion and anger. Your mother, dipshit! I pressed a hand against his body and pulsed energy through my fingertips, generating enough of a lightning blast to get Axel off me. Her name is... I coughed, my throat aching from the pressure applied. Her name... Valerie. Get it right, prick! I snarled, my voice uneven and my breathing still labored. Axel, a hand now holding the area I'd blasted, shook his head impatiently. Valerie, Valian, whatever fucking name she used. Who killed her, James? He conjured no flame, yet the heat of his words alone was enough to match any flame he could materialize. My head was still spinning, still trying to steady myself, my thoughts. The last time I saw her. Memory came flooding back and my mind came to a stop. Ignore that, Jesus, I'm really tired. She's gone, isn't she? I went still, which clearly didn't sit right with Axel. Shrugging off the remaining effects of the impact, he pulled me back up to my feet, eyes burning with anger. I have no fucking clue, I hissed at him, clutching at his arm in an attempt to get him to release his grip. All I know is it was some damn fire-wielding... My voice caught as my mind fully began to process what had happened. Wait a minute. My mother was dead. No, murdered. A deep kind of pain, of sorrow, began swelling up from within. A pain that started deep in my chest and rose up into my throat, threatening to suffocate my words of all coherence and to bring tears to my eyes. Not the cool kind that dripped from my eyes whenever I couldn't sleep, but the burning kind that came with hurt. Instead of dwelling anymore on my mother, instead of thinking about how I could have maybe stopped anything if I'd gotten home sooner, instead of thinking about how I wasted my time picking a fight that might not have even started, instead of wondering if there was any other way I could have left the burning wreckage of my home without running into that man, I instead purely focused on the man, forged my hurt with something sharp, something wicked, something that dripped with hatred. He's a murderer. Anger wrapped up my grief, pushed it deep down beneath the surface of my emotions, took root in my mind. I asked Axel, in as calm a tone as I could, where are we? I needed to figure out my next move before anything else. I had an idea, but it couldn't be formed unless I knew where I was. Axel scowled, turning away. After a momentary silence, he cursed, and sat down on a nearby empty bed, a different, yet identical one to the bed he'd situated himself upon earlier. You're at Still Creek, some old defunct hospital. The Institute uses this building. He spoke, in a low voice that was clearly too used to being used as aggressively as the flames he manifested. I had nowhere else to take you, and I couldn't find the bastard that killed Valian when I arrived. His words were tinged with a hint of regret, a tinge that was almost entirely hidden beneath the heat of his tone. And now a plan began forming in my head. With utmost politeness, I simply said, can I get a glass of water? It sounded too fake of a request for my ears, but it seemed enough for Axel. He grunted a response, marching away. Before he exited the room, he aimed a kick at the trash bin located just beside the doorway, leaving a sizable dent. One of many, it appeared. I waited till his footsteps receded, then ran to a window opposite the doorway. It looked like it should have had a lock placed on it, but said lock was nowhere to be seen. Opening the window open, a cool blast of the evening air hit my face. I squinted for a couple seconds, the initial force being overwhelming, before taking a look down. It appeared that the street level was only 2 stories down. 2 stories. Let's hope these new powers can help me avoid any broken legs. Leaping from the windowsill, I was suspended in the air for a brief moment, and in that moment I had the time to consider just how dumb this was. If this fails, I'm fucked. Then I plummeted. I focused and a blast of electricity propelled me across the street from my legs. I successfully avoided breaking my legs, instead sailing into the side of a parked car before collapsing on the ground. A dull ache settled into my side, my left shoulder the only point of direct contact, and thus the only place it really hurt. Anybody could have told you that was going to end badly, idiot. I got back to my feet, shaking off as much of the impact as I could. Next stop, home. I couldn't track down Bernie bastard without heading to where I saw him last, and more importantly, I wanted to go back. It may have been burning last time I saw it, but it was still my home. Let's go. Time, 9:42 p.m. Location, home. What's left of it. It was all just charred wood, scorched tiles and porcelain, burnt plaster, frayed wires that still feebly sparked, and not a trace of anyone or anything. Had I not known this was a house, I wouldn't have if anybody had genuinely lived here. How do we find Valerie's killer like this? I peered into the wreckage some more, trying to get a good glimpse of any remaining trace of my home, my life. A bright spot of white stuck out, which upon further investigation was revealed to be my old hoodie. It was 3 sizes too big and featureless, with a couple slight scorch marks on the left sleeve, but miraculously it was still intact. I slipped it on, feeling a familiar sense of calm settle into my body. It was a lingering scent of ash, but it didn't perforate the nostrils nor burn the sinuses. The hoodie was bought almost a year and a half ago, when it was even bigger on me than it was now. The memory came flooding back, my excited face when I showed my mother the hoodie, her sly smirk when she saw how large it was, a look of boundless amusement later that evening when I wore it to dinner. All gone now, though. It's just us now. It was still, painfully still, sitting in the ghostly shell of my home. I could still envision us sat at our dinner table, feasting on a roast chicken and tossing idle banter, or watching her laugh as she demolished half a tub of ice cream on her own. My mother would never again be able to eat her salted caramel and butterscotch ice cream, a concoction I personally thought was way too sweet. I'd never be able to text her again, to remind her of an upcoming event we'd planned, or see her arrive home from work late. It was gone. She was gone. The grief began to swell again, and I began to drown in my memories. It was all brought to a halt by a lone voice that spoke from behind me. Let me set the tone. Let me set the tone. Someone really did come back to the site, the voice said, voice filled with half-rehearsed shock. I spun round, and standing about 10 feet from me was a tall man, wearing a brown sleeveless hoodie that matched his brown cargo pants. He wore boots that seemed pockmarked with holes, as if termites had bored their way through the footwear. His features were all strong, solid, striking, a square jaw, deep eye sockets, high cheekbones, an angular nose. He looked powerful, looked like he could silence a room with a glance. A discomforting smirk tore through those features, a hidden sickle brandished from the tall grass to strike at its target. The man gave me a once-over before tutting to himself. Guess I forgot to check with you too, didn't I? He asked, seemingly disappointed with himself. He raised his left palm and flames erupted from the center of his hand. I darted to the side immediately, narrowly dodging the blast, when another followed suit. I laced lightning into my legs and darted again, this time rocketing much farther away. Unable to maintain my footing, I ended up sprawling across that blackened grass outside of the wreckage, but I quickly scrambled back to my feet. He's the one. He killed your mother. I shook my head, already well aware. My plan was accelerating faster than intended, but that was fine with me. Next step. Kill him! I bolted towards him, curling more lightning around my right arm as I ready to punch, just as I'd done with Baxter's enforcers earlier. But before I could come anywhere near landing it, he sidestepped the fist and let loose a small blast from his right hand into my stomach. Again, I was sent reeling away from the blow, my breath thrust from my lungs as I stumbled away from him, the lightning around my fist having fizzled out. The man laughed, filled his hands with flames, and clasped them together with deliberance, flames swallowing his form. He bore down on me, a burning figure hellbent on finishing what he started. I pumped more lightning into my arm, leapt to my feet, and let loose the hardest hit I possibly could, which sent him spinning away from me. A twinge of pain raced through my arm, but I ignored it. I was driven now, driven by my need to take him out. He recovered and flung a wave of fire towards me, which I dove away from, unsuccessfully. The flaming wave converged on my location, erupting in a small blast just behind me that knocked me down again. Fuck, we're going to lose. I started to rise, but another burning blow crashed into my chest and sent me flying back into the ruins of the house. My back crashed through a few weakened planks of burnt wood before I stopped, and my first attempt to draw the breath that had been knocked from my lungs caused a hot pain to bloom in my chest, rising rapidly until I coughed up blood. I was getting dizzy and tired, and my torso felt ragged. The man strode over, taking hold of my hoodie's collar with one hand and lifting me up to eye level. It's nothing personal, he said, his other hand burning, poised and ready to strike. Reaching out, I splayed my left hand on his chest before pouring lightning from myself directly into him. Lightning sparked and crackled all around us, the blue of my power contrasting the orange hues his power cast. His body was trembling violently, and a shaky scream seemed to be trying to form from his mouth, a scream that never seemed to move past his throat. I kept electrocuting him, pushing more and more energy out of my hand until the burning sensation became too overwhelmingly painful to tolerate, and still I kept it up, waiting for his grip to loosen, to let me go. And let go he did. His fingers finally spasmed and sprung open, and I caught myself before I fell back down yet again. Yeah, I spat mockingly. Nothing personal either, you utter sack of shit. The man's body exploded with more flames than ever, and I was sent hurtling into a street lamp just past the sidewalk outside the house. I slumped, my back on fire and my breathing labored. My vision blurred in my right eye, but my left saw that the flames were now seeping into the man's body, burning him, transforming him into what looked like living fire. His skin was cracking, looking similar to an active volcano with lava dripping down the sides, cracking the rocks that made up the mountain and leaving behind glowing orange trails. His hair was gone, his figure was barely discernible amongst all the flames around him, and despite the roaring of the fire, I could hear a voice, almost as if the crackling of fire was speaking to me. Come here. Come here. Whatever the man had turned into seemed solely focused on approaching me. I raised my left arm with great effort, but I couldn't fire off any more energy. I felt on the edge of conscious thought, ready to pass out at any second. The flames roared greater and greater. The burning figure drew closer, unrecognizable now as anything even remotely human, and right before its flames reached me, another figure, distinctly human, appeared from above me. Flames curled around the newcomer's arms. The figure held up one arm, and their fingers burned white with the intensity of the flames along their hand. One word was uttered by a familiar voice, "Pierce!" before the white hand plunged into the fiery creature's chest. The flames seemed to freeze in place before shriveling away, seemingly extinguished. After a few moments, all that remained was the smoking corpse of the man who'd attacked me, burned beyond recognition and giving off a hideous odor. The corpse fell to the floor after the fingers penetrating his chest were removed. The figure, who I now knew was Axel, turned to me as he extinguished the flames. My vision was really starting to fail, and my head was spinning, but I was able to pick out one last sentence before I fell back into unconsciousness. Fucking imbecile. And here it is. An abyss with eyes, a darkness without features that still feels poised and ready to sink its teeth and claws into me. A creature more ancient than any other, a being with limitless knowledge and potential, stalking me down as its prey. The darkness is blinding, the silence is deafening, the anticipation is torturous. A singular instant of unconscious thought, one moment drawn out into an eternity. Alright. We're gonna take like a couple minutes break. Alright? I realized I've had my desktop audio off, so the music that I've been playing alongside all of this has just not been playing. Wonderful. Wonderful. We love to see it. Fuck. Huh. This works. Okay, I just need to have like a quick drink. I should have been playing this. This is what I wanted to play. Nah, but there's a specific scene I want to play that one at, actually. Later on. I haven't even written that chapter yet. I need to not get ahead of myself. Okay. This one's okay. This one's okay for this. Alright, chapter 7. Another dream, another unfamiliar ceiling, another wave of pain. Another day. I sat up with a start, alert and with my eyes narrowed, ready for anything at this stage. My nerves were on edge and I was waiting for the next bullshit thing to throw itself at me, but was met with a simplistic room. Aside from the bed I was sat on, there weren't many features at all. There was a blank white dresser, with the slightest bit of green fabric peeking out from within one of the drawers, and a full-length mirror. But beyond that, there wasn't much to note about the room. But maybe that was my perception of everything, considering there was a girl with mousy brown hair sat beside my bed. Her eyes were a striking shade of violet, her gaze fixed to my face, my features, not weirdly, or out of any attraction, just observing, analyzing. I noted the clipboard clutched in her hands. Check. She frowned, her vivid red lips forming a half pout in the process. Good to see you're awake, she said cheerily, and I almost audibly sighed with exasperation. I just woke up. She's too fucking bubbly. Need you to stay here for a few minutes before you decided to go on a walkabout, Her tone was exhausting, overly exuberant, making simple conversation feel like a social event. I nodded, still remaining alert. Excellent, she chirped. I just need to check eye movements and motor functions, and you'll be right as rain. All the healing I had to do. The girl took a moment to shake her head to herself as if disapproving of my injuries. The great thing I'm good at my job, else you'd be in real trouble. Gee, a guy had any choice in the matter, I thought bitterly, and I frowned. Matter? Memory began flooding my mind of the moments before I blacked out again. I remembered the fiery man who'd killed my mother, the way his body blazed with an intensity that seemed inhuman. How Axel had swooped in and seemingly killed the man, left a bad taste in my mouth, but for what reason I couldn't tell. A knock at the door drew the girl's attention away from me for a moment. Come in, she called enthusiastically, and the door slid open into the wall. And speak of the fucking devil, Axel's here. He looked different, more relaxed, yet still distinctively Axel. If anything, he looked less subdued than he ever had at school, now wearing a dark t-shirt paired with denim shorts. He had a few scratches and burn marks on his neck and along his hands, but the burns seemed old and faded, while the scratches seemed less like wounds and more like the impression of wounds. I scowled at him, that bad taste in my mouth suddenly making much more sense. This fucker killed him for me. We were meant to kill that man. He had no right, I thought. He gave me a once-over, rolled his eyes, then flicked the girl's forehead. We're needed, Hazel, he announced. Bring the scruffy dipshit Harrowing wants to speak to him. Without further ado or explanation, he left the room. Hazel, as she was supposedly named, rubbed at her forehead for a few moments. It took a moment to unclench my hands. I hadn't realized I had them clutched in the tight fists. Something sat dark and unsatisfied within me. Something that still sought some kind of payoff or relief for taking revenge. Revenge that I'd now never get the chance to exact. Hazel stood up, shaking her brown wavy hair about the place. It was maybe an inch or two taller than me, so I put it down to poor genetics on my part. Well, we've got our orders. Follow me. Without further ado, she marched onward to the open door, her arms trailing by her sides in a free, fluttery, irritating manner. She's tiring me out already. I followed, the pain I'd felt through my body when I woke up already fading into the background. Whoever Harrowing was, I hope he could tell me where I was. But I didn't even make it to Harrowing before I found out where exactly this place was. As Hazel walked me down a long corridor, one of the walls seemed to turn transparent midway along, and I saw emblazoned across the front of a lobby-looking room the words, Nexus Academy, Institute of Development. Nexus? Oh, fuck. I'd heard about Nexus, the prestigious school for those who were exceptionally gifted with both power and natural talent, but to actually be within it for no reason? Something felt off. I never wanted to necessarily go here, and yet here I was just randomly waking up here. Something is definitely off. Nice job noticing the blatantly obvious, dumbass. The logo was emblazoned bright green with gold accents to make it stand out, with a white streak in the center of each letter of Nexus. A familiar sight, yet not one I'd ever figured I'd see from within Nexus itself. Hazel led me down a doorway, bright green in contrast to the white halls and corridors I'd walked past along the way. Within it was a comically large brown desk, cluttered up not with documents but with odds and ends. At a glance I could see a pen lid, a screw, several batteries of different brand and type, and even what looked suspiciously like a prosthetic eye. Sat behind this desk was a stockily built man with olive skin and dark grey hair that was white at his temples, cut short but mussed up to look effortlessly messy. He wore a tie-dye long-sleeved shirt, with the sleeves rolled midway up his forearms. But the expression he wore didn't match the vibrant, rainbow tie-dye attire. He seemed displeased, possibly even pissed off by whatever Axel was telling him about, but his face brightened several tones when I walked into the room alongside Hazel. Stop smiling at us, you prick. He gestured at the empty chair sat across from him, and I took it tentatively. Pleasure to finally meet you, James, the man, presumably harrowing, said. I'm the principal of Nexus Academy, and I cut him off, already growing more irritated. Before you say anything else, I don't want to join your stupid fucking school. Axel turned sharply in my direction, already looking ready to instigate a fight that I would be more than willing to participate in. We can take him, surely. Harrowing simply held up a hand between the two of us, effortlessly diffusing the tension while bringing my attention back to Harrowing. You've been enrolled since 2005, but that's your decision. He brings his hand back to form a steeple with his fingers, peering at me over the peak. No, there's a couple other things that need addressing first before we talk about your future. I scowled at him. Like what? You need to decide what you want to do next, James, he said, his tone becoming more morose. Your situation is rather unique, and of the only two people who know what your situation entails, only one is still alive. This pissed me off. Can we not talk about my fucking mother like she's just anybody else? I snarled. Harrowing already was trying to backtrack, but I wasn't done yet. No, shut your fucking mouth, you old prick. Maybe to you she's just anyone else, but that's my mother who's dead. I glared daggers at the man, who still seemed intent on presenting a cheerful expression. And then a tingle went off in the back of my skull, right before a soft knock on the doorframe behind me. Turning around, I saw a man dressed in a white t-shirt, with a crudely drawn stickman on the front. He sported torn black jeans, black hair with spots of white throughout, and held a letter in his left hand. A scabbard was attached to his belt, and a dull orange hilt was visible, but beyond the sword he looked very much like he was cast in black and white. In my peripheral vision, I saw Harrowing give the newcomer a nod, and he took 2 steps before flicking my face. Talking as if you have somewhere to go, James, the man said. Judging by his voice and getting a closer look at his pale features, I noticed he was quite young. Maybe 19, maybe 23 at most. Last we checked, you've got nothing left. I rose out of the chair and met the man's eyes, my gaze heated and full of contempt. His patient and observant. I've got my friends, I started, but faltered as I remembered that Lucas and Bella, no, Callus and Cammy, had tried to kill me earlier under orders from somebody. Friends don't stalk you for a year waiting for the kill order, the man replied smoothly. I clenched my jaw. School. I've got this time. The man interrupted me before I could finish. A school that's been dissolved overnight due to recent events? We've already shut the school down. He took a moment to look me up and down, making a big show sizing me up. You sure as shit don't have a home to return to, or any existing family left. So where were you planning on going? I looked away, glaring at the wall. Away. On my own. Somewhere. Harrowing spoke up now, inserting himself back into the conversation. And right into the hands of the very people who wanted you and your mother dead. I turned around back to him, my mind already connecting dots. Why aren't you telling me, old man? I asked, more curious now than angry. The man behind me replied instead. Your mother Valerie was a major informant for Nexus, and both she and you were marked for death by a very dangerous group of people. That's the short and simple. But now, he paused, handing me the letter clenched in his hand. The situation has changed. You need to be caught up to speed. Chuck, mind if I take him off your hands? You have a scolding to give to Axel for not removing Callus and Cammy, if I remember correctly. Without waiting for an answer, the man gripped my wrist and led me away, storming down the hallway I'd come through just before. I struggled at first in an attempt to escape, but after it was clear I wasn't going anywhere till he let me go, I simply gave up, let myself be led. He then spun me around, shoving my back against the wall and cursing as he backed off. Shit, it happened this way, we had a fucking plan! He froze, his anger dissipating worryingly fast. Sorry, just things with you and your heritage weren't meant to start this early. That's my fault. Back up a moment, I said, confused and annoyed. Heritage? Plan? The fuck do you mean this is your fault? Something sparked within me and I jumped to another conclusion. You get my fucking mother killed? You shut your mouth right now, I had nothing to do with her death, he replied. He sighed, fishing around in his jeans for something, pulling out a pill container he showed it to me. Look familiar? He asked. At first it looked like any typical pill container, but it looked strangely familiar. Too familiar. It looked exactly like the same supplements I'd been taking my whole life. The supplements that made me feel ill every time I stopped taking them. I frowned in confusion, glancing up at the man for answers. I unknowingly stalled your shipment of supplements. You were supposed to be on these till you were 18, he explained, but my frown didn't lessen in intensity at all. The man nodded to himself, pocketing the pill container again. These aren't supplements, but rather suppressants, made to suppress your genetics. My genetics? I asked, now fully lost in what the fuck was going on. We've been taking pills, not knowing we didn't need them all along? Ironic. The man nodded, more to himself than to me. You stopped taking the supplements for a day or two and would feel incredibly unwell, right? Yeah, but that was just, it wasn't due to chemical deficit, he stated. That side effect was a deterrent to convince you, should you try stopping earlier than planned. Gesturing to the letter I held, he continued, that letter explains the gist of what's going on, and everything else I'll tell you as we go along. Hurry up, read it. Without further ado, I opened the letter, my curiosity winning over any decision to be more skeptical. Immediately, I was greeted by the familiar chicken scroll handwriting of my mother, and I felt a burning heat in my throat, a stinging behind the eyes. The letter read, Dusk, and James, should he choose to let you see this. This letter details information regarding my son, in the event of my absence, or, in the case of James reading this letter, my death. This is closely guarded information, and I request this letter be destroyed as soon as it has served its purpose. Approximately 15 years ago, I met a man beyond my wildest dreams. It wasn't until a few years later I realized he wasn't real, but rather an illusion implanted to avoid any issues. That man is James's father. The truth of my son's birth is that he was born a week after being conceived. His father made frequent visits during the week prior to his birth, but after James was born, his father immediately walked away with him. I couldn't hold my son for the first time until almost an hour after the birthday. And as James was passed into my arms, I was given a warning. His father stated that James would develop at an accelerated rate, that he was likely to burn out before he even reached 6 months of age due to his heritage. Suggesting genetic suppression and working closely with the doctors, James's father developed the suppressants I've been giving my son ever since. I don't question what his father told me, or what effect these pills have on my son, because you don't question someone like his father. When the suppressant wears off, James will awaken. Depending on how many years he's been using the suppressant, he should have a while before his heritage catches up, before he's consumed by his own birthright, powers, physiology, mentality, even his soul. I have no clue what his father's genetics will do to him. His father is a Kylestrian, Dusk. I was told that his genetic heritage will rapidly develop, awakening and evolving as he learns how to use his newfound capabilities. If he reaches full development before his human body is fully matured, he will almost certainly die. His heritage is likely to override who he currently is, and he'll explode if he can't contain all that energy. I need you to save him. Teach him as much as you can, slow his development, everything possible to buy my son time, please. Not just because he's my son, but because the collateral damage would be on a scale beyond anything we're prepared for if he isn't ready. I know you, Lightwing. If anybody can help my son, it's you. Valerie. P.S. James, if you're reading this, I hope I looked somewhat cool before I died. Sorry about that. I flipped the letter around to see if there was more, but all that was there was a strange colored diagram. Dusk snatched the letter off my hands before I could get a decent look at the diagram and pocketed it without returning it to its envelope. So, all caught up? He said, a touch of sarcasm in his words. My mind spun, overwhelmed with new information. Kylestrian? Next suppression? Awaken? My father? I'm going to die? Turning to Dusk, I asked the most important question on my mind. What the ever-living fuck?! That's it. That's it. That's it, everyone. That's the reading stream. All right. One sec. Where is it? Just getting some nice music for us. Oh, this works. Reading stream. Jesus. I've been way too tired for this today. Oh shit! Right, follow goal. We hit follow goal. I need to fix that later. Man, I haven't even been paying attention to things like my follow goal lately. I hope everyone enjoyed that. we're just gonna chill for a few minutes. Anyone's got questions, feel free to ask them. If you don't have questions, obviously don't say anything. I'll happy to just chat the stream. You know, it is technically a just chatting stream. So yeah. Oh yeah, I should probably like mention chapters 18 and 19 for those who were caught up with the Timescape Chronicles will be out tomorrow at some point, maybe the day after. Hey, I have not started writing chapters 18 and 19. I have a day, maybe 2 days, to finish 2 chapters. I don't have time. I don't have the time to do this. Unless I... That's a lie. I have the time. I'm just probably not sleeping tonight. So I've got Moonbound SMP stuff to sort out. I gotta go grind off stream so I can finish building something cool. And then I've got the remainder of my night and like tomorrow to write. Yeah, I can do that. That sounds like a good plan. Yeah. Sorry, by the way, that I've been missing chat while I'm reading. I tend not to like I look at chat, obviously, even when I'm reading, but I try not to talk too much to chat. Because my stuttering as it is already interrupts the flow of my reading. But yeah. Lily, Morella reading stream. Yes! The only stream that I fully enjoy with all of my heart because it doesn't do me any harm whatsoever. And I get to do free promotion of my story. At some point I need to, work on advertising this a bit better, because at the moment I'm just posting like it here and there, but I want to get enough people into this story that there are people having active discussions about this. They can talk about their favorite characters, their dynamics, what they would do in this situation, where they think the story's headed, all of that. I want everyone I can possibly get into that to be part of that kind of group. I think that would be amazing. If chapter quality is shit, by the way, these are the early chapters. I do apologize. I know they're bad. I know they are really bad. That is on me. I wouldn't say I got lazy writing them. It is true, though. I did get a bit... It's not lazy so much as it was just I rushed through it. But these are the weak chapters, in my opinion. They're the setup chapters. They're a bit rushed as a result, and they're a bit weak. My cohesive writing ability, it gets better in the later ones, because that's kind of where I find my footing a bit more. That's where I get to like the content that I'm a lot better at writing in terms of this story. It's always the first steps writing this, like the first few chapters, that were always the hurdle I couldn't get over. Oh, there's some people in a VC. I might actually join that in a sec. And just pop in, say hi, and then, I don't know, raid somebody. But yeah. Let's see. I should discuss plans. Right. I think I've said this already on another reading stream. For those who don't know, I'm doing a 1-year anniversary for the Timescape Chronicles on September 2nd. What this means is I plan on releasing the final 3 chapters of Book 1 on stream. We will not go through and read it, because I will not be caught up to it by then. I'm gonna take it a bit slower with these reading streams. Especially because the next, like, I think it's past chapter 9 or 10, every single chapter is as long as the last 3 chapters put together. So I'm going to slow down how many chapters I put into each reading stream, just so I have that breathing room. Like, yes, if you want the reading streams, you've got the reading streams. But if you want to get ahead to where we currently are in the story, so you are up to date, everything, you can go read it yourself. That's how I want to do this. I'm working on getting links and everything set up, so if you want, you can read along with me. You don't have to read on screen. You can read ahead at your own pace through the same chapter. Totally up to you. Reading stream probably won't happen on the anniversary. I might do it. Actually, what day is the anniversary on? Because depending on what day it is, I'll see. September 2nd. Okay, look. I'll do a reading stream on the anniversary, but it'll be like a 1 chapter thing. I'll keep it to 1 chapter because I don't want that to be the focus of the stream. I'll probably just read it like this. Because there's a lot of other things I want to read as well, like the original, like, starting version of the Timescape Chronicles, back when it was really scuffed and shit. I mean, it still is scuffed and shit, just not as scuffed as it used to be. But yes, I want to read out some of that so you can see where this all started. I will have to omit a lot of chapters because unfortunately, a lot of this, like, when I first wrote this, there were too many spoilers loaded into the very first chapter for what happens in, say, book 5. So I had to completely scrap that first chapter. The first few chapters, actually, I had to completely scrap because it kept referencing that first chapter. But I am really, really excited to get that stream underway. I'll also be showcasing any art that's been done for the story, previous artworks, or future artworks even. Because I think we're at a point where I can start discussing the art without spoiling too much. It's not a spoiler about the eye. The eye... It doesn't matter. The eye doesn't matter. Well, it does, but it doesn't. Like, it doesn't matter if you see the eye. And the art is so outdated that anything that it has on it at this point isn't a spoiler. I've addressed it all already in this story. So yeah, that's what I plan on doing. I'm really, really looking forward to that stream. I think that's going to be my favorite stream this year. If I can get it all up and running, it's going to be great. I'll even bring up some of you guys and you can have like your own personalized, like, one-on-one interview style type thing. If that is something you guys would be interested in. With all that being said, though, I'm gonna end the stream here. It's been a good one. It's been a real good one. I've had lots of fun, and I hope pod viewers and live viewers alike both enjoyed. Remember, Timescape Chronicles chapters 18 and 19 come out tomorrow or the day after, so catch up if you haven't already. Jocelyn, I'm looking at you. Okay, you're caught up on chapter 7 now, but you've got chapters 8 to 17 to catch up on. From here on out as well, the chapters are going to be coming out a lot quicker because I've got about a month to write the remaining chapters. Chapters 18 and 19 will be coming out at the very end of July. So that gives me an exact month to write chapters 20 to 30-ish. It might be 30, it might be 28. Still working on that. We'll see how the thing naturally progresses as I write it, because I added an extra fight in that I did not need. So, yeah. We'll see how that goes. Thank you, everyone who came. Even though it's just for a few seconds or a minute. Thanks to all my chatters, as always. Except you stream elements and sound alerts, because you fucking suck dick. Alright. Let's see who's on. Fission's on. I'm gonna raid Fission, everyone. Fission's cool. Follow him. If you don't follow him, I'm gonna kick your ass. And if you are following them, then, you know, you're fine. Just say hi. Alright, excellent. Awesome. Oh, dear lord. Alright. Good to raid. There it is. Alrighty. Bye, everyone. Woo! Bye-bye. Bye-bye. See you later. Goodbye. Goodbye. Bye-bye.
That was awkward. Let's get that shit out of the way.